All right, CJ. So fresh off Talladega, getting ready for Kansas. One more race to go before the round of 8. And what can you say? I mean, that's Talladega at its very best.
Yeah, it was a crazy race to say the least. I mean, not least of which was the postponement going into
Ugh.
Sunday and or Sunday into Monday. But then who would have thought that Ryan Blaney ending on a low note with the rain coming at the end of the first stage would have actually lucked out by having that happen to him, and then actually survive all the way to the end to get the victory. So clutch performance from him, certainly first time winner of the year. So came at the perfect time for him.
Yeah, it was nice. Like you said, it was good to see someone other than the big boys get a win, and also somebody that's desperate for a win. For
He was. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
I mean, he's been playing catch up for his teammates Keselowski and Logano all season. They hit the ground running, and he's been behind up until now. So
yeah. So that was good. I got to tell you, I experienced the issues that NASCAR has once again with the rain and the postponement of races because I traveled on Monday
yep.
and I couldn't watch the race. I couldn't do it. And I tried to record it, but I couldn't because I was already out of town. And the way, as we've talked about before, if they don't quickly update the programming like on your for your DVR so you can put it on the proper channel before you leave it. They didn't even have it on at 6 o'clock. I think I left at 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday. I couldn't schedule it. They didn't even update it, so I couldn't record the race properly. And I had to watch the finish of the race basically on YouTube or something like that. I don't even remember where I picked up the replay of the end of the race on YouTube. And that's unfortunate because it was a great race. It was a great finish, and a lot of people missed out.
Yeah, I was traveling too. I had it set to record on Sunday. I was flying back Monday morning. Once I realized it was delayed, I didn't even bother setting my DVR to record on Monday. I just prayed that my flight wasn't going to be delayed and that I'd be able to get home in time to turn it on. Luckily, I made it just in time. It was just a couple minutes to spare. Was able to get there and get it on time, but I didn't even bother just because when they do delay it, the guides just don't update fast enough,
Yeah.
and you always screw up the recording and you end up losing it.
And the reason we shouldn't even have to do that is because, once again, if they would have started the race earlier,
Earlier.
it would have
Yes.
ended on Sunday.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, easy solution. They should figure out a way to do that. I don't understand why they don't. Everybody's there already anyway, especially Talladega with being a party place. Everybody camping out. There's no reason other than TV not to do it that way. But if you can figure out a way for golf, I mean, just like you said, just to, delay it, delay the broadcast of
Why
it, but at
not?
least start it, get it in. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly
People
right.
just would. People can avoid messages or looking at their iPhones for a couple of hours if they don't want to know the result. They want to watch a tape
Sure.
recorded. You can do it. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, you can't. Isn't it
Absolutely.
better for TV to do that on a Sunday? You can't get any ratings on Monday at 2 o'clock. Come on.
Except for those people that are flying and just get home in time to be able to turn it on. Yeah, you're exactly right.
All right. So what this does, tell me for the playoff picture. We know Blaney's in. We know Larson's in. Who else is in to the final 8?
That's pretty much it. So they're the only two. It's a pretty big gap between eighth to ninth from Bowman to the rest of the field, or not Bowman, but it's like a 16, 17 point gap. I want to say right around the eighth place margin. But the only two really at this point that are locked in are Larson and Blaney. Almost anything else could happen, but realistically, once people take the green flag, like Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, etc., they're going to be through. So really, you're watching around that eighth place position, and right now, Hendrick, 3 cars out of it right now, not looking good for them.
All right. So who's the realistic battle down to?
You're going to be looking at, say, a Bowman, a Byron, maybe a Boyer. I mean, they basically they're pretty much Bowman and Byron pretty much are Boyer are pretty much the two that you're going to be looking at. Elliott with his issues, he's pretty much in a must-win situation.
Really?
So
Elliott is in almost a must-win situation.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the troubles that they've had in the first couple of races. I mean, getting caught in an accident, then too, on top of that, just puts them behind the ball. And with a 17-point gap, you've got to hope that the other people up above have trouble. The only way really to guarantee your way through is to come out and win.
All right, so Boyer. So right now, Boyer, Bowman, Byron, and Elliott. Those are the four that are in the biggest trouble. They're the ones that
Yep.
most likely are going to have to win. Who is there? Who else is there? Like on the cutoff that still has to make sure he doesn't get in any trouble.
So that would be Penske. So you're talking about Keselowski and Logano.
Okay.
They're the ones that they've got like an 18 to 20 point-ish gap ahead of Bowman. Again, that's a pretty wide gap. I mean, that's half the field, right? So something pretty big has got to happen for them to finish down at the bottom. And then a Bowman, an Elliott, a Boyer, they've got to have something to help them finish up at the top at the same time.
Okay.
So it's a decent gap, but Keselowski and Logano are the two that probably will be sweating it out through most of it.
All right. Now you had the first pick. You went with Kevin Harvick, and Eric had the second pick. He went with Chase Elliott. And I got to say that out of all, let's see, there were 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 so-called favorites in this race. And out of those 7, you guys picked the 2 that I would have picked. So I think we're all on the same page. Harvick and
well, you picked my sleeper.
Yeah,
so,
I went with Bowman because you guys picked the top 2 that I would have went with. So I just decided let me go with my top sleeper, which was your top sleeper,
there you go.
and maybe Eric's top sleeper, Bowman. Yeah, so he wound up being my top pick. But Harvick 5-1, Elliott 6-1. And the reason being, these two drivers, they've been pretty good here lately. Harvick, third or better in 7 of his last 12, with 3 runner-ups and 3 wins, while leading 772 combined laps. That's pretty awesome. Chase Elliott, 3 top 5s, last 4. He's the defending champ of the race. So it makes a lot of sense why those 2 guys were the first 2 picks.
Yeah, I mean, even if you throw out those stats and you just look at laps led, I mean, this track comes down to grip and restarts. So late cautions and pit strategy are really going to come into play. If you kind of throw out all of that and look at who's been dominant throughout the race, through the middle portions of the race, those are the guys that have come out and led, 75, 100 plus laps each time that you get here. So just a matter of perfecting pit road, perfecting the strategy, capitalizing on the spots that they may have missed out in the past if for whatever reason they led a bunch and didn't get in the victory lane. So I think those guys are very much obvious choices this weekend.
Okay. Also, Martin Truex and Kyle Busch are 5-1. Kyle's got 8 top 10s in his last 9 here, including 6 top 5s, a runner-up in a win back in 2016. He was runner-up in this race last year, but 30th in May. Truex was 19th in May, even though he has 4 top 5s in his last 5 with a runner-up and 2 wins. He's got 8 top 5s overall. So both of these drivers have done well here, especially recently, except for this season.
Yeah, both of them stumbled. Kyle Busch, you could point to, is probably having maybe a little bit more of an edge over Truex this week because at least he had the top 10 starting position earlier this year. Ended up finishing 30th, but Truex started deep in the field and wasn't able to work his way through. So Busch led 1 lap, but starting in the top 10, he's got to figure out how to get it done. He's behind right now. He hasn't figured out what he needs to do to get back into victory lane. It's been since June in Pocono.
Yeah.
He's been there. Once he figures it out, certainly he's going to figure it out. But for whatever reason, Truex, after being so good here for 4 straight races, 4 consecutive top 5s, 2 of them being wins, to come out, start 31st, finish 19th is just a disappointing day. So maybe if he qualifies a little bit better, he'll have a bit of an edge, but I'd want to look at both of them through practice for sure.
Yeah, because that's very important at this racetrack. If we take a look at, they've only raced here 27 times. The farthest back anybody has won from here is 25th. That's not really that far back. And 22 of 27 winners all time have started in the first 7 rows, top 14, and a little bit more than half, 14 of 27 winners, have started in the first 3 rows. So qualifying means an awful lot here.
It does. Track position is king, and this is a typical 1.5 mile oval where if a team comes out or a driver comes out really early, hits the setup, and throws in really fast laps, qualifies well, has a decent 10 lap average to back it up as well, you're pretty much going to have your top choices handed to you just by looking at those timesheets before you even get to the race on Sunday. And then from there, it's just a matter of making sure you stay out of trouble and don't make any mistakes that put you back behind where you have to claw your way back forward again.
All right, Penske 8-1, Keselowski, Logano. Keselowski's got a couple of wins. He won in May, led only 12 laps, but that's typical Keselowski. And then you've got Logano, who's got a couple of wins here. 15th in May. He led 100 laps from the pole in this race last year, finishing 8th. Who would you go with, Keselowski or Logano?
Logano, with those 100 laps led, he's one of the ones that is up there. Plus, if you look at his recent races, he's been able to qualify and start really well. It's been a matter of finishing the races. So he's been up in the stage points, if not winning the opening stage. It's just a matter of carrying it through to the rest of the race. He was really strong at Talladega, got caught up in a wreck. I think Logano right now would be the one that I would choose. Not to say that Keselowski couldn't pull off another, 12 lap come in at the end, take advantage of a restart win, because that's just kind of his style. But if you're looking to play the long game, certainly Logano would be the choice over the two.
All right, let's take a look at our sleepers. And your sleeper pick was Eric Jones. Eric went with Clint Boyer. And I decided to take advantage of the fact that Denny Hamlin's a sleeper at 18-1. That's the only reason I did that. So let's talk about Jones and Boyer, because you do have 6 drivers between 25, actually 7 drivers between 25 and 40-1. And you got Jones, one of those drivers, at 30-1. Of course, Bowman, my top pick, is also 30-1. You mentioned, of course, you would have taken Bowman just like me because he led 63 laps in May. That was when he went through that runner-up streak, finished runner-up in this race in May. He was also 9th in this race last year, 7th on this track in 2016. So he's had a lot of successes at this racetrack, and he's sitting there at 30-1. But you went with Eric Jones because in his last 3 races, they've all resulted in finishing 7th or better.
7th, 4th, and 3rd. So when you take Bowman off the board, who not only finished runner-up earlier this year, but really he's been making his own luck pretty much at every track recently, and he's up against the wall, and he's probably going to make his own luck again this weekend and have a good run. When you take him off the board, certainly you got to look at somebody like an Eric Jones, who's just the consistency, the 3 extra races or just 3 total races in the last one. You compare to Boyer, just the last one where he's in the top 5, and that's really kind of an anomaly for him when you look at his entire career. 22 starts at the track. So Jones has found the consistency, and he's been able to leverage it. Boyer had a good race in the spring. Who's to say he's going to have a good one again this fall? He hasn't proven it back-to-back at this track yet.
Yeah, really not a whole lot of deep sleepers to choose from as far as their history here. I mean, Blaney would have been a decent choice, but now you got to wonder, maybe there's a positive that he won last week, confidence-wise. Who knows?
It could be, yeah. It could definitely be a boost for him. I mean, he's not bad at this track. He's been here, 9 times, and he's got 5 top 10s, 3 top 5. So he's not terrible at it. He's just been a little bit off so far this season. Talladega, kind of lucked into it, but you've got to be there to win it. And it's not like he hasn't been. It's not like he's been horrible.
Sure.
He's just been a little bit behind. So he's been pretty good at this track. Yeah, I would say that if you're not looking at a Jones, Bowman, Boyer, probably Blaney is probably your best bet after that. Yeah.
Why not? 25-1. That's a big number for one of the only 8 drivers that still has a shot to win the championship. Boyer, by the way, as you mentioned, finished 5th in May, 30-1. Kurt Busch, 30-1. 6 top 10s last 9. Jimmy Johnson, 40-1. 6th in May. Almirola, Suarez never had a top 5 in their career. Newman, first 3 races here, finished second, and first. Led 99 laps combined in those 3 races. Last 24 races, no top 5s, just 29 laps. So not sure Ryan Newman is the way to go with 100-1. Dillon's had some decent moments here at 100-1. Maybe we'd look at him if he qualifies well. What about Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin? Because Larson's 10-1. He's got 4 top 10s in his last 5 races. The only one of those 5 he had engine issues.
So I like Larson because he's another one of those four guys out of the last four races that led a bunch but couldn't make it into victory lane. He's got the win, so he's got a little bit of confidence on his side. So we know he's got the speed at this track, but beyond those that we've already picked, honestly, I would wait until you see practice times and maybe even qualifying times, to be honest with you, just because, like we talked about, track position is so important. Somebody like Kyle Larson is probably someone that you could choose earlier, but the rest of them that you mentioned, like a Newman, like a Dillon, etc., if they don't show speed on practice or prior to qualifying, or if they have a bad qualifying session, chances are that they're not going to be able to pull themselves out of it, and they're going to be driving around at the back of the pack, and you would have wasted your
And
choice.
look,
So I would wait until you see the timesheets.
I kid, but I do think that when you can get Denny Hamlin at 18-1, it's
Yeah,
something you probably shouldn't. I mean, you should take a second look at, because he does have 6 top fives and a win at this racetrack. He's only led 6 laps in his last 13 races, which is why he's 18-1, 16th in May. But look, he's not 8-1. He's not 10-1. He's 18-1,
great.
and he's one of the championship contenders, top championship
Absolutely.
contenders.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to even talk about him at 18-1. I keep forgetting that he's there,
Yeah.
because he would naturally be at the top. Yeah, he's one that you can choose early as well, and you probably should, given that price. But yeah, he's another one that you could choose early. Kyle Larson, the ones we talked about, certainly. But you know, beyond that, you got to be looking at the timesheets. They're about the only ones that might be able to come from the back and win. Leverage strategy. I just don't see anybody else who doesn't show early speed through practice being able to pull it through.
All right.
It's just one of the tracks.
So, if you, what kind, from what you saw earlier this year, can you take 2 tires? Can
Yes.
you can? Okay.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. If it comes down to it, I mean, first and foremost, the track is about grip. So if you have long green flag runs, the person with the freshest tires are going to win. If you get to parts where you get the short yellow flags coming pretty frequently, especially toward the end, if you make a gamble, you take 2 tires, everybody else doesn't, you can hold your position well enough to be able to hold them off. It's going to be tough, but you will definitely see people trying to do that.
all right. Who would you lean towards right now to win the championship? Number 1 pick.
I mean, oh my goodness. Truex.
Okay. Who would be number 2?
Gibbs has been so strong. It's hard to see Kyle Busch not overcoming his demons right now. So
Okay.
probably Kyle Busch would be on.
Yeah, my top 2 right now are going to still be. I'm still going with Hamlin number 1, but I got Truex like 1B. So I'm
Yep.
with you there with Truex, but I have not given up on Hamlin. I mean, Hamlin
I,
still afforded himself well even last week. So
I haven't given up on him either, but if Kyle's able to make his way to Homestead, I think
oh
he can
yeah,
pull it through. Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, it comes down to one race, and we've seen how tenacious Kyle Busch can be. And no discredit to Denny Hamlin. Absolutely think that he's capable of doing it, and he's in there without a shot. He's got to overcome his teammates on a head-to-head fight, though, on a one-track deal,
sure,
one race deal.
yeah, because chances are, and I would have to. You tell me if are you saying you would if as long as Kyle Busch wins before Homestead. Do you think
Yep.
that's important? I don't think Kyle can get into
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Homestead
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and only on points and expect to win. I think he's got to get
No.
that feeling of victory again, and then he'll be awfully
He,
dangerous at Homestead.
yeah, he does. I think he will cure his demons over the next 4 races, and he'll come into Homestead swinging. And as soon as he gets a taste of that confidence, when it comes down to a one-race deal, and he's got it,
Watch out.
I'm, I'm not sure that anybody can hold a candle to him, to be honest with you.
All right, CJ, before I let
Truex is the closest one.
True, yes, we agree on that. Okay, before I let you go, what's going on at RotoWire?
We will have our fantasy preview up as soon as qualifying is over. And then, as usual, within 24 hours at the end of the race, we'll have our race recap up. And it'll have a focus on the cut line because obviously we're losing 4 more going into the next 3 races. So we'll focus on those final 8 championship contenders as they battle out to get to Homestead.
Yeah, we'll talk to both you and Eric next week, so we get your both of your takes on the final 8. So, CJ, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.